Hello, everyone. Thanks for viewing this Crowd1 presentation, as well as visiting our YouTube channel. And as usual, if you find it informative and useful, please subscribe and share. Now, this short presentation represents the first part of a six-part series to introduce Crowd1. Now, we have deliberately broken up the presentation in chunks so that the Crowd1 business can be understood by anyone, be it a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or just a normal person. Now, to kickstart the first part of this presentation, I think it's absolutely paramount that we give some focus to online business in and by itself and then link it to the Crowd1 concept, because after all, Crowd1 is aligned fully to the online business concept. Now, being a pragmatic person, um, and I would imagine most listeners would be within that category as well. You know, if I'm looking to engage in a business, ideally, I want to know a couple of things, such as the background to the industry that this business is operating in, the trajectory of the industry, the trends in the industry. Are there any room within the business itself for growth and development? What's the long-term objective? Are there um, negative factors that I should be considering? Are there any changes that could be happening in the industry that I should be aware of before entering? So these are typical things that you would want to consider before you make that move. And I think the same concept is applied here. So to somewhat kickstart the presentation, um, I think it's worth looking at this statement that Bill Gates made um, some time ago, and I think we can all identify with it. It says, if your business is not on the internet, then your business will be out of business. I don't think anyone can argue with this on any level. And if there was any argument, I think it was laid to rest during this pandemic, because unless you were able to conduct your business online, you were going to struggle. And I think for that reason, some businesses perhaps would have been they're totally been destroyed because of this, because it's really a step change. So I don't think anyone can literally argue with that. Now, looking at this slide, I think it's almost self-explanatory, where I think we can all agree that persons are moving away from the old way of shopping and moving to the new way. And I don't think it's this. I don't think the pandemic introduced this. This has been the trajectory for years. But I think what the pandemic has done, it has taken it to another level and therefore introduced a step change. So, irrespective of the industry, if it is travel, if it is online gaming, if it's um, food shopping, if it's clothing, if it's cars, if it's spare parts, it doesn't matter which industry, automotive, aerospace, everything is literally being done online. And people are just moving away from the old way of actually doing that. And if you look at it as a point in case, within UK, the government has spent thousands, if not millions, of pounds to help business make the transition from their traditional way of doing business to a digital strategy, because the pandemic itself pushed and reinforced the point that online is the way to go. Now, for me, I like to back up statements with a bit of figures so that it brings some level of solidity to what we are seeing. Now, these are very huge numbers when you look at them. If you look at LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, it's 2.6 billion monthly active users for Facebook. Twitter, you're talking about 330 million monthly active users. And 145 million active users daily. Those are huge numbers. LinkedIn, which is ideal for professionals and B2B activities. You have something like 610 million active members as of 2020. And trust me, that has increased significantly again because of a pandemic where most persons are now operating online. They need to promote their business in a different way since they have to work remotely and so forth. So these are just some stark figures. And these figures I would imagine would also increase since the time that we did this presentation. So I think we need to know that the online business activity and participants, it's pretty huge. Now look at this slide again. Look at Amazon. Most of us can identify with that. You know, right now, anything that we need, we can get from Amazon, be it clothing. See, they're now doing food. They're building new warehouses. I think they have now decided to increase their warehouse capacity while other companies are looking to downsize, they are now increasing, where they're now looking to add another 7,000 persons alone in the UK and 10,000 in the US, which confirms the step change in activities. Now, if you look at these figures, they did in 2017, $178.5 billion US dollars. Look at Netflix. They have circa 192.95 million paying streaming subscribers. Netflix has 72.9 million subscribers alone in the United States. Look at WhatsApp, 1.5 billion active users in over 180 countries. And this figure is a little bit old, but it's of some value. They have 450 million daily active users in Q2 2018. Obviously, that figure would have actually jumped up since the pandemic and even in 2019. But that's just to kind of give a quick overview. And trust me, if you do a cursory research and look at, let me see, other companies or online businesses, you will realize that something that is very similar between all of them. They all attract huge amount of users, huge amount of online community, which tells you that online is definitely the way to go. Now, I wanted to do a kind of a quick point and case with Amazon, and I want you to pay close attention to this slide. You know, in 2019, Amazon did 280.5 billion US dollars. The same company did 178.5 billion in 2017. And at that time, they had 100 million users. In 2019, they had something like about 150 million, an increase of 50 million users. The key point is, in 2 years, they did $100 billion additional in revenue. I have not touched 2020. I have not included 2021. But based on what has happened under normal circumstances, you could easily estimate 100 billion on top of that. I don't think I need to go into too much detail to explain why I say online is the way to go. Now, from all of what I just presented, the figures, the involvement, the kinds of revenue that is involved, there are 3 questions that comes to mind, and I would love for us to consider it as we look at Crowd1. Number 1, from all the platforms described in the previous slides, how much money did you make from it? 2, how much will you ever make from these platforms? And thirdly, what kinds of monies would you be making if you were a part of these companies when they started? And I'm specifically referring to, companies like Google, or not Google, but like Amazon, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. What if you were part of those from the inception? Crowd1 is actually giving you an opportunity to be, let me say, part of the pioneering of crowd marketing on a whole different level. you're now being given that opportunity. And obviously, I painted the picture of how other companies would have done very well based on the numbers, and Crowd1 is no different. So, this part of the presentation is meant just to give you a quick overview and a context to what is happening in the online industry. So this marks the end of part one, which is one of 6 parts to be done. So if this video was of any value, feel free to subscribe or to share the video so that persons could be informed. And thank you for watching. And of course, we're going to now jump to part 2, where we will go a little bit deeper on the Crowd1 concept. Thank you. Catch you on the other side.